Hi everyone, and welcome to the June webinar. This month we're going to be talking about making fruits and veggies fun for kids. My name is Andrea Lindsay and I am the AmeriCorps Vista in the DC office, and I will be sharing information today from our DC Central Kitchen School Foods team and also from our AmeriCorps Vista at the Campus Kitchen at Northwestern, Kelly Koss. And many thanks to them for providing some great content for this webinar today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Our goals for this webinar are to talk about some ways that you can improve kids' consumption of fruits and vegetables if you're in a meal program where you're serving kids, but also help them get excited about it. And if you're doing programming with kids, ways that you can incorporate fruit and vegetable activities and cooking and taste tests into that programming. So we're going to talk about 4 key strategies. And those are letting kids choose. And our example for that strategy will be the Fresh Feature Fridays program that DC Central Kitchen has had great success with in their school foods program. We'll talk about making food fun, and I'll share some examples from various campus kitchens that have posted great photos and are having some success with that. And then we'll share some ideas from Kelly about making food familiar and also about making meals interactive. And in addition to Kelly's tips in that segment, will also share a couple techniques that are in our Sowing Seeds for Healthy Kids garden-based nutrition education curriculum. So to kick it off with Fresh Feature Fridays, this is a program that DC Central Kitchen began in 2012. So Katie, one of our wonderful staff members, was a dietetic intern at the time, and she was working at one of the schools that the DC Central Kitchen School Foods program serves, Walker Jones Elementary. She was in charge of evaluating the salad bar and the offerings provided there to see if there's any way to encourage the students to take more fruits and vegetables off of the line instead of some of the foods that they were maybe a little more used to. She noticed that one of the fruits that she had added to the salad bar, we might think of it as a vegetable, but technically a fruit, a yellow pepper, was consistently going untouched. And one day she actually had a student ask her if the yellow pepper was a peach. So she realized that maybe one reason the students didn't want to take this item from the salad bar is that they didn't know what it was. So she started thinking about how she could get the students comfortable with maybe some unfamiliar foods. So the first way that this program started was with a taste test where they wanted to get some feedback on new salad dressings, and they used that yellow bell pepper as the fresh feature that would serve as a vehicle for the different dressings. So the students were instructed to try all the dressings, vote on their favorite, and then whichever dressing was the most popular would go on the salad bar so that they could choose it in the coming weeks. The students were really excited about this opportunity. They were engaged, and they really enjoyed the yellow pepper now that they had tried it in a few different ways. And in the week following the taste test, they had the winning dressings and the yellow pepper back on the salad bar and found that there were now 30% of the students going down the line taking that from the salad bar, whereas before the taste test, it had only been 8%. So they realized they were really onto something with this program, and that was the beginning of Fresh Feature Fridays. So the way that this program works now is that they choose a vegetable and come up with 3 different ways to prepare it. They set up a table in the cafeteria during the lunch period where all 3 methods are presented in small sample cups, and they have some fun signage which identifies each preparation method. And the students are able to come up to the table after they've finished their meal, sample all 3 vegetable preparations, and then tell a staff member which one they like the most. The staff member tallies all the votes, and then the winning recipe is featured on the student's lunch menu the following month and on future menus. So some of the really key goals of this program are to expose students to new vegetables and preparation methods. Even if a student has tried a vegetable before and maybe decided they didn't like it that particular way, this really opens the door to new options for them and gives them the chance to discover that maybe they like it when they try it a different way. It also empowers them to take ownership of their menus. They can really see that their voices are being heard. It's a vegetable democracy where they're given the choice between healthy or a different healthy option, and everyone ends up winning. And it also really informs the decisions that the recipe development team is making, because they get a clear sense of what the students actually like to eat. And they can reduce plate waste, which is a big concern in school food programs, and help create healthy habits early on for these students. So some key tips if you wanted to implement a program like this as part of your meal service. Realize that students are going to be looking for the recipe to show up exactly the same way that they tasted it. So you really want to make sure the recipes that you're using for the taste test are something that you can continue to replicate on a regular basis. And that can be a little challenging if you don't know exactly what donations you're going to get, but maybe that's an opportunity to think about a similar preparation or a sort of sauce or seasoning that you can do, even if it ends up being something slightly different, or something that you know is a really consistent donation, and take advantage of that when you're coming up with taste test options. And the DC School Foods team has found that calling students up in smaller groups is really helpful. That's definitely something you can replicate in whatever setting that you're in. And they also experimented initially with having the students place their own votes, but that could get a little chaotic, and when students were really excited about one preparation, they might try to sort of stuff the ballot box. So they've found that the best practice here is to have the students tell a staff member or volunteer in your case what their vote is, and then have that person be in charge of the voting tabs. And so the easiest way for this to work is really to have 3 people running the taste test, one person who's kind of calling students up, one person who's handing out the samples, and then someone else who's collecting the votes. And then the final aspect of this is making sure that when you do bring that recipe back that the students have chosen, that you use really clear signage to identify that this was their winner, which helps them know that their voice was heard and they helped shape their own menu, and confirms for them that this was the method they taste tested and this was the method that they chose. Otherwise, they might be a little hesitant to try something again. So this program has been really successful, as I've explained anecdotally, but they also had the opportunity to have some American University graduate students in the School of Education, Teaching, and Health actually perform a survey and do some data analysis. And they found that the percent of vegetables that were consumed after the taste test was increasing, but perhaps even more importantly, that change was sustained over time. So even 4 weeks out, you had more students trying the vegetable than had been trying it prior to the taste test. So this is really an inexpensive and cost-effective way to get students to eat more vegetables, and also just a way to really help engage them with their food, which is what we'll be talking about with some of these other strategies now. So our first aspect of making food fun is playing with color, and that's something that you can do in your meal preparation ahead of time, or you can provide a variety of colors for students to integrate into their own meal. So if you have the opportunity for them to make their own fruit skewers, for example, they can make their own rainbow combinations, or if you've got sort of a taco bar like this picture in the bottom corner, they can mix around the different colors themselves. Another way to make food fun is to play with shapes, which again is something that you can do ahead of time or that you can do to get the kids involved. It can be a way to add produce to maybe more basic sandwiches. I think that's what's going on with the butterfly sandwich in the bottom corner here, or a way to make unusual sandwiches with maybe some ingredients that kids might not otherwise be as familiar with look more exciting. So we've got your tomato ladybug up there. Another way to make food fun is with food presentations that are fun for kids to eat. So wraps of all different kinds are a good example of that. You can have lettuce wraps, you can have banana roll-ups with tortillas and bread. And then I liked this idea with the apple stacks, but that is also something you could do with cucumbers, or you can make stacked cracker sandwiches with any variety of different fillings. And really what a lot of these ideas are about in terms of making food fun is customization. So like the fruit skewers that we saw, the wraps and the stacks, those are great ways to give kids an opportunity to customize their food. Mini pizzas are another great option. You can add lots of different vegetables to those, and there are a variety of different bases you can use with different sauces. You can try bowl meals, which really just combine any sort of grain with any sort of protein and vegetables, and give kids the opportunity to mix in their favorites and try a little bit of something new, but not too much. And then trail mix is another great snack, a way to get some fruit in there with some healthy, sweeter foods perhaps, and again allows them to just pick and choose what their favorites are and also try something new. So another strategy for encouraging fruit and vegetable consumption is making food familiar. And there's really two different ways that Kelly said she likes to do this, and that's hiding or highlighting. So you can incorporate vegetables into familiar recipes by concealing them, for example, pureeing them into sauces, soups, and dips, or by featuring them, like adding colorful veggies to pizza or pasta or sandwiches. And the key here is that regardless of whether you're hiding or highlighting the vegetable, it's not a way to trick the kids. You want to make sure that you share with them what you added, but these are just two different ways to think about doing it. It's really important to get to know your audience. Often when Kelly is doing a nutrition education program, she'll start by asking the kids to introduce themselves and share their favorite food. That's definitely something you could just do during a meal service as well. And during this time, you can take note of the foods they mention and then bring in versions with added veggies for future classes. So for example, a lot of kids might say that their favorite food is pizza, and you could plan a veggie pizza party and bring in some of those ideas I talked about earlier with letting them customize their own toppings, for example. A lot of kids also really like to eat raw veggies when they're paired with a tasty dip, which can be a really great healthy snack. And dips made with a healthy source of fat, like olive or canola oil or even avocado, can actually help with absorption of certain vitamins from the vegetables. And depending on the age of kids that you're working with, that's something you can talk to them about as well. They'll definitely be interested in hearing why it's good for them to eat this food, not just that it's something that they should do. And some dips that kids in Kelly's classes have enjoyed were hummus, guacamole, and tzatziki, which is a yogurt dip with cucumber in it. And you can also sneak extra vegetables into dips. So for example, cooked beets, sweet potato, or cauliflower all blend really well into hummus. So as I've been talking about some different recipes here, and as you heard about Fresh Feature Fridays, they have some recipes that have been great successes. And we gathered all of those together for you and made a document which is available on the pantry and has all these recipes from Fresh Feature Fridays, some from the Healthy Corner Store program at DC Central Kitchen, some that Kelly has developed in her nutrition classes, and some that are actually from our nutrition education program for older adults, which will be released soon, but are also great options to try with kids. So you can follow that link on the pantry. It's just in the webinar page, and download that document to get access to all of these recipes. So our final strategy for getting kids excited about fruits and vegetables is making the meal interactive. And you can really find ways to include kids in the entire process. So when Kelly was planning snacks for her classes, she would think about how she could set it up so that the kids could be involved in preparing, serving, and cleaning up. So in most situations, she found that if you ask kids to help out, they'll be really excited to take a break from sitting, to get to do something different. So for example, when she was doing the Sowing Seeds for Healthy Kids nutrition education curriculum, the students' favorite snack was a layered snack which represented the layers of a compost pile. So they had 4 different foods, which were crackers, peanut butter, dried fruit, and pretzels. So Kelly asked for 3 students to help pass out cups, napkins, and spoons, and 4 students to volunteer to help their classmates add the food to their layered snack. And then while they were eating, she would continue to make it interactive by asking questions to get a discussion started about why the snack was healthy and how it related to the day's lesson. And they would also talk about where the food came from. So again, you may not have a meal serving opportunity where you can get the kids as involved, but you can certainly always have some sort of discussion, ask what they think about the food, but also talk about where it came from, explain maybe how you prepared it. And after a few classes, if you're doing this in a sort of more programmatic setting, the kids will become more familiar with what the expectations are, and then you can ask if they have any healthy suggestions for snacks for future classes. So like we talked about with Fresh Feature Fridays, this really empowers the kids to make healthy choices, and then they'll come to the next class excited to see if you used any of their ideas. So again, just going back a little bit to that idea of discussion during meals, you can ask all kinds of different questions, not just, is this good or is it bad? Do you like it? Do you not like it? But have you tried it before? If you're trying a new vegetable or a new fruit, what dish would you use this in? Or what dish have you had it in before? Where does this food come from? What part of the world is it grown in? Is it grown somewhere near to us? What time of year does it grow in? And then when you're engaging with new foods, if you're doing a taste test, for example, in Sowing Seeds for Healthy Kids, there's an extra activity in the teaching guide, which is a plant part taste test. So different from Fresh Feature Fridays where you're trying different recipes using the same vegetable, you're really just honing in on the vegetable itself and probably trying it raw. So in that situation, you have the opportunity to ask for really detailed observations, and that's a great skill for kids to be developing that they can apply in science class and in other parts of their life. So again, not just do you like it, is it yummy, is it yucky, but what does it smell like? What exactly does it look like? What kinds of tastes are you getting? You know, is it sweet? Is it sour? Is it bitter? Again, trying to move away from value judgments and really being descriptive, and that helps them be creative as well. And when I was preparing for this webinar, I also checked in with a Campus Kitchen alum who's now a DC Central Kitchen staff person, and she does a lot of nutrition education work with kids. And she said that when you incorporate education into mealtime discussion, so again, talking to kids about why the food is healthy or where it came from or what it does in their body, she said that when kids understand why it's important, that also encourages them to try more. And the final thing I'll say is that if you have a garden where you can get kids involved in harvesting some of their foods, that can be really engaging as well. Again, just about that empowerment, a sense of ownership in the process, and really feeling like they have some choice and engagement in new foods. So I hope that some of these strategies were helpful, and as always, we would love to hear about your experiences using them. Feel free to share some of your own strategies for getting kids excited about fruits and vegetables, and thanks for watching.